never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, g'day, folks. How are you? Hope you had a good weekend and you didn't get up to too much mischief. I know that there are plenty of you that don't mind a little bit of mischief on the weekends. What the? Not looking at you particularly, just thinking of you. You know how it is. There are a few others floating around. I had a pretty quiet one just between you, me, and the Gatepost. Haven't been feeling well for the last little while since I basically got back from South Australia. I think it's probably just a change of states and all that, but it seemed to have picked up a bit today. So, yip-yah, all things being equal in a beautiful world, it'll keep doing that kind of thing. First in the house tonight was Tony. And thank you for calling me Cry or Krull. I'm not quite sure which one you got, but well done, Tony. I answered to most things, as you well know. Daniel, Aussie Sue, God love you. And don't forget to like and subscribe because that's what Aussie Sue does. After she says hello, that's the very next message. Every time, God love you. One of our great moderators in our Voice of Freedom family. Who else is floating around? The lovely Margot is in as well. Black Sheep is on the road and back into civilization. Now, don't get me wrong, I may have this wrong, but I sort of suspected you to be a little more out of touch rather than sitting in the plush surrounds of a posh motel in Emerald, Paul. I mean, I expected you to be somewhere under a gum tree out in the middle of nowhere on a track that really is only known for its corrugations rather than its direct road to anywhere in particular. So by the looks of it, though, the plan is to head south. I know you've got dates to be back in, and I want to say you've got another week and a bit before you've got to be back into Melbourne to catch the boat back home to Taswegialand. So the trip is going to progress off to Roma tomorrow, then Lightning Ridge, Dubbo, and then Finley. We know people in Lightning Ridge. In fact, Andrew and his family have just had a bunch of puppies. No, I know you don't want one, but we do know some people in Lightning Ridge. If you need to know some people in Lightning Ridge, let me know. Good man, Black Sheep, and I'm sure Andrew would get along very well with him. I did mark a couple of these. Silver Fox, good evening to you, my good friend. The first group physio session today. Going to do short walks. You can climb into the tractor and feed the sheep. There are small mercies. Well, that's great, mate. You're up and moving. That's excellent. And the physio thing is only going to improve you. And I know Watler would be saying the same thing, even though I know that he's not necessarily enjoying the physio too much, but he's just concentrating on growing skin at the moment more than physio, I suppose. It's pretty hard to train those two toes to start working again, as you'd appreciate. Bit of black humour there for you, sorry. I marked a couple of other things out here. Deb Shippard, how are you, darling? Hope you and Kevin are doing well. Has anybody heard about the banking system changing to the QFS and Starmer was told to resign and Sleazy is in hiding? Yes, I've heard all of these things. And in fact, good friend, Patriot 101, Glenn, posted a whole heap of stuff this morning, which I sort of kind of wish he hadn't. Let's talk about Sleazy to begin with. Albo Sleazy in hiding, possibly. In hiding in Fiji. That is the story the media have been fed, that he was put on a plane this morning and off to Fiji to do a deal with the Fijians regarding security issues in the South Pacific, which seems only fair considering China launched a missile today, a dummy missile out of the South Pacific, and it landed precisely where it was meant to land. But this was a submarine-launched ballistic missile in the South Pacific. That's bound to make a few people nervous, probably the ones who are expecting our own nuclear submarines to be turning up sometime in the next 3 years. That sounds useful, doesn't it? At any rate, we're getting off track a little bit. The QFS system, I have heard, well, the QFS has been running in tandem with the fiat system apparently for over 12 months, maybe closer to 18 months. And basically, it has been running a mirror to every transaction in the world. They've sorted out all their bugs, and I believe it is active. But so, too, is the fiat system still. The fiat system has not broken. That requires the petrodollar to break. And as far as I'm aware, the US dollar, while not terribly strong, is not collapsing under the weight of oil embargoes and what's happening in the Suez Canal and with Iran at the moment. That could change in a 15th of a minute minute, but I don't know what it would take to change that. So, don't know. I suggest there are a lot of things happening in the background, and I've said to you before, and I suppose I should own up now, I'm probably wrong to feel this way, but I feel pretty disappointed after July the 4th. Not that I like giving out dates, but I just felt, and it was only a date I felt, it wasn't any date I'd ever heard much about other than there's going to be a party. I felt that July 4th, the 250th celebration of America's independence, where it would become truly independent again, truly independent from Britain, I thought that would be the ideal time for those announcements, those sorts of constitutional announcements to be made, which would lead necessarily to other announcements about the financial system. To my knowledge, none of that happened. No announcements of any kind. There was a party there was a party right across America, but unfortunately, most of America had been sprayed in the preceding days to July the 4th, and so it persistently precipitated, particularly in Washington, where President Trump put out on Truth Social, I think, a message that there were 422,000 people gathered around waiting for the fireworks display at 7:02, and the fireworks display was called off because of the weather. There was lightning and thunder around. Trump overrode that decision a little while later, and it was through the efforts of all the security personnel, the CIA, the Secret Service, the local police, that they were able to herd 150,000 people back into the stadium that has been constructed out the front of the White House, so to speak, so that they would have an audience for what would be billed as the largest firework display in the history of the world. Now, the history of the world is a little ambiguous, but we can confidently predict that the Chinese have been throwing around fireworks displays for a very, very long time. So be it the largest or not, I'm not sure. It was right up there. It was meant to last, and I don't know if it wound up running this duration, but it was meant to last 40-odd minutes. And if it did, I'd be amazed. However, the bits of it that I saw looked pretty impressive. What looked the most impressive of all was the rehearsal for the drone show. Now, that happened a couple of days or nights before July the 4th. But unfortunately, on July the 4th, the clouds, the thunder, the rain, the everything made the drone show next to impossible, I'm led to believe. So if you can, go to YouTube and you can check it out. It's a pretty impressive drone show. 2,500 drones used in the display. And they created everything from pictures and images of George Washington to images of Mustang fighters, not Ford Mustangs, but the fighter planes, all the way through to, look, go and watch it yourself, but an amazing bald eagle at the end of it. It was all created by drones. Gives you a bit of an idea where the technology currently sits, just with, some LEDs attached to a drone. Imagine what could happen if there were hologram or holographic emitters loaded on those drones rather than 4 little LEDs. Let me just pop over here. I want to talk about drones, and I want to show you a little something about what drones can do. I'm going to play this. I'll speak over the top of it because there's no sound. These explosions are drones that are being shot, tracked infrared, and shot autonomously by an AI-directed system. Now, this system is being developed in the United States of America, and it does have some rather interesting secondary countries helping out with it, should I just say. One of those countries that was suggested should be able to come to Australia and make new weapons here. I don't know. We're not allowed to own weapons like this. Here's what it... Imagine sticking one of those in the back of the old EA Falcon in the wagon. By God, she'd do all right. In the Commodore wagon, probably got more room. That's a very powerful little system. Now, they're targeting this to countries, or at least militaries, that want to protect themselves from drone attack. Drone attacks like we've seen in Ukraine, where small FPV type drones, first person view, that FPV stands for, fly over the horizon. They're very quick. They've got a large enough amount of explosive on them to kill the person they're targeted at, or maybe to blow up a tank if they hit it in the right spot. But by and large, pretty hit and miss, but very difficult to protect against. And we've seen no end of vision of Russian soldiers waving their Kalashnikovs around trying to shoot these drones out of the sky and not having too much luck. This takes all the guesswork clean out of it. It hasn't missed one yet in any video that I've seen. It's still in a semi-testing phase. You can inquire about purchasing the system. I have a feeling you're going to need government support, or at least a letter saying, yes, we don't mind you inquiring about it. Otherwise, you're going to get some very interesting people turning up on your doorstep, which might be a little bit upsetting. Speaking of interesting people turning up on your doorstep, there was a speech in New South Wales Parliament recently that really took my interest. Now, it's because this speech is about powers and processes and intelligence that New South Wales Police can access. But it's not just New South Wales Police. I am led to believe that Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia and Western Australia can also access this. And if they can, why the hell wouldn't Tasmania, the Northern Territory and the ACT as well? Have a bit of a listen.
I think most people in New South Wales would be alarmed to know that the New South Wales Police, using data from an Israeli corporation, can access any message you have ever sent, any photo you have ever taken, your location at any moment, everything you have ever searched, and biometric data about who you are. But that is precisely what digital evidence access orders allow police to do. The Universal Forensic Extraction Device, or UFED, that Celebrite provide to New South Wales Police can crack locked, passcode protected phones and download essentially everything: texts, emails, photos, videos, call logs, contacts, search history, health data and messages from encrypted apps, WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, including deleted messages. It also extracts metadata, which means the police, using Israeli technology, can see your GPS coordinates, timestamps and device info, as well as hidden system files such as iPhones, biome files, over 130 categories covering app usage history, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth connections, lock, unlock events, notifications and Siri usage, where they happened, when they happened and why they happened. Israeli UFED cloud technology extracts data stored in the cloud, social media, phone backups, iCloud, Dropbox, Uber activity, online purchases. Celebrite's endpoint inspector technology allows remote extraction of data from devices anywhere in the world without physical access. Its Pathfinder technology uses AI to rapidly analyse all data extracted by other Celebrite products, mapping a person's relationships, movements and activities in just minutes. I think most people in New South Wales would be...
I would have thought that would make most people just a little upset. I know it certainly made me wonder a little bit, and I did a little bit more looking. But then I started wondering, well, if they got access to all this data, what are they going to do with it? Well, they're going to cross-reference it with everything that you do in your life. And how are they going to cross-reference it? Well, it'll go from your daily morning walk all the way through to what you do at 3 o'clock in the morning when you stagger out of a nightclub. They will have tracked everything you've done inside a nightclub up until 3 o'clock in the morning anyway. But have a look around. Now, this sort of camera called a flock camera is currently being rolled out across the US. I think they are also already rolled out through the UK. And I've heard stories that they are rolled out in parts of Sydney here, but I haven't seen any definitive vision of them or knowledge. If you know of one of these cameras near you, and I've got a sneaking suspicion if they're going to be in Sydney, they'll be somewhere on the Gold Coast, usually right along the Strip. So if I'm down that way, I might try and have a look. But this is what you watch for. Have a look at this.
All right, these flock cameras, they're not tracking just cars. So I found some tag ridges at the old police department I worked at that are apparently tracking pedestrians as you walk. Let's go check this out. It's crazy. So in this park right here, there's a flock camera up there pumping out IR. And then there's another one over here within like, I don't know, 150 feet of each other. There's one there and one there. They're not tracking just cars. I'm gonna show you. See how it's starting to flash right there when I'm walking towards it? They're taking pictures of faces because there's not a car in sight. And if I'm not moving, watch what it does. Watch what it does when I'm not moving. So watch what happens when I start, oh, there it goes. I started moving. It's tracking. So there's no car in sight. There's nothing in sight. And the reason why I'm saying that is if you look, so let's see if it goes off when this car goes by. See, nothing. But if you look there, underneath that, now it's firing off. There's a radar, and it's pointing in the same direction that the camera's going. That radar was to be utilized for traffic coming this way. It would obviously be pointing this way. So you can see it there. If I zoom in a little bit, it's tracking you it's tracking people as you walk.
So keep an eye out for those cameras. They are coming to a corner near you, I have no doubt. Here's something else that could be spying on you. If you've got Facebook running as an app on any of your devices, I came across this little one today. Now, I generally, as a rule, do not share my entire camera roll with anything for any reason. But I found out today, even though I thought I wasn't, I apparently was. And I was allowing Meta AI to grab whatever it wanted from my photos, stored on the phone from however long I've had photos on phones, I guess, and would be making up memories for it to post up for me or some other such shit. Now, if you don't want that sort of access, then here are the steps you need to take, at least for an iPhone. I can't help you out with an Android device, but it will be pretty similar. If you go into the app and follow the menu, going to settings and privacy, look for preferences, look for something that has camera roll sharing suggestions or share abilities, and turn it all off. I'm yet to see if it's made any significant difference. I haven't had any problem accessing photos or whatever for myself. So anything that makes these bastards' lives a little harder, I'll be frank, I'm all for it. All for it. Now, I've got another video I'm going to play you, but I might leave it for a little while yet. Now, that's a video of the bloody French. Now, the French judiciary have made a very bad decision in my estimation, but we will talk about that. in a little bit because it is upsetting. I'm warning you. I'm going to show you a video that will show you a painting that portrays a pedophilic act, and it's going to make you sick. But I think it's important that it's played simply because the French court have decided that under freedom of speech, and we all argue for freedom of speech, this sort of filth can be put up in a public art gallery. But we'll get to that in the near future. We've got some good news, first of all. Now, we've been talking about it for years. We have been railing against it. We have been begging, pleading, and coercing others not to be part of it, not to partake, not to swallow the lies. And we haven't had anything by way of significant evidence to prove our positions, which has been almost a fatal flaw in our arguments. When I say almost a fatal flaw, we had so much supporting evidence that wasn't being corroborated in any other format other than the way we identified it. And that was as a side effect to being jabbed. Now, while there's been a lot of hue and cry about what's going on over July 4th or what hasn't gone on over July 4th and Nasara Jassara coming on, or whether the QFS is going to take control, and we will talk about that a little later again too. There are 3 events you've got to look for between now and the end of August, apparently. We'll wait and see what happens. But this is pretty significant. This has come from a Tulsi Gabbard's office, who has released, just between you, me, and the Gatepost, 4.7 million files related to the COVID conspiracy farce. These are just some of them. Now, she released on the 18th of June, her final day as the Director of National Intelligence, 4.7 million pages, every email, every wire transfer, every internal memo they thought was buried forever. They were wrong. Tulsi Gabbard's crew dug it all up. Now, what the mainstream media aren't going to tell you is about certain page numbers. Page number 2,847, the NIAID internal memo dated October 3rd, 2019. Phase 3 aerosolation test complete. Mortality projection 1.8 to 3.2 million within 18 months of release. Recommend immediate halt. That was October the 3rd, 2019. Fauci's handwritten response: continue. Funding secured through Geneva. That was 3 months before the first case in Wuhan. Now, the money trail is also fully visible. $47.3 million has been routed through EcoHealth Alliance to Wuhan between 2014 and 2019. 128 million in preparedness grants sent to 3 Swiss intermediaries. Wonder where they came from. And $2.4 billion in Moderna pre-production contracts signed in August 2019, 4 months before the pandemic was even announced. Now, you've got to wonder exactly how long before we start seeing the arrests. Now, it appears that they ordered the vaccine before the virus was even public. In a classified briefing dated the 14th of November 2019, attended by Fauci, Collins, and 7 members of Congress, they were told a novel pathogen would emerge from Wuhan within 60 days. Well, they were right about that. They didn't warn you. They bought stock. Congressional trading records show $312 million in pharma positions opened between November 15 and December 20, 2019. They bet on your death, and they won. Classified DoD mortality analysis. complete March 2014, suppressed until now. COVID direct deaths, 1.2 million. Vaccine adverse deaths, 487,000. Lockdown deaths, 340,000. Total, 2.03 million Americans died from a virus manufactured and released with full knowledge. This is the largest mass murder event in history. Not just American history, but in all of history. So, what comes next? Well, these indictments are sealed, apparently, so we have no actual proof until we see it all released, and one would assume that will come out in the fullness of time. But a sealed federal grand jury, impaneled in May of this year, has reviewed the documents for 27 days. They've put down 11 indictments. Fauci, Collins, 3 EcoHealth executives, 2 Moderna board members, and 4 sitting Congress people. Trump's response on June the 19th was no deals, no immunity, tribunals. So we're expecting to see arrests. But will those arrests extend beyond the big names, the Faucis of the world, or will it go down to your local doctor? They created a plague and they rolled it out, and a lot of doctors knowingly rolled this out, knowingly kept pushing it, whether that be for the financial incentive that they were induced with, just greed, wanted a new set of pings, or wanted to send the kids off on an overseas holiday somewhere, wanted to buy a 4th investment property, myriad of reasons. If all of that is true, and I've seen nothing reported anywhere outside of Telegram, to be honest, then going to be interesting. Why would Tulsi Gabbard resign and get out of all of this? Well, I think it leaves open an investigation into everything that she's released, and 4.7 million documents is more than the Epstein files, I think, or at least the ones that have been released. So over the next little while, I would expect some very big news breaking stories coming out of the stuff that she has let drop on her way out the door. It's almost the equivalent to a microphone drop, I'd say. And she has certainly been pretty good at doing things like that. Now, speaking of microphone drops, we've in Australia always been ready to stand to support just about anybody who holds up their hand and says we need help. What we're also very good identifying is people who cry wolf a lot for always holding up their hand and asking for help. One could be, no. Anyway, there is one certain group that refuses to be ignored when they hold their hand up. And when they hold their hand up, they speak with a force that is much larger than their number should give them in any democracy. Of course, I'm talking about the Jewish organizations in Australia. And right now, they are screaming for more hate speech laws to be introduced by that moron of a human being we have sitting in the Prime Minister's office at the moment. Now, I can see that moron and the other morons that he surrounds himself with probably will wind up coming up with more great ideas on how to impeach our freedoms or impinge on our freedoms. Also, a small group of supposed Australians, but these aren't people who will stand up and protect Australia first. They will stand up and protect Israel first before Australia. Israel is the motherland. Israel is everything. Australia just happens to be where we can live without having to worry about an iron dome over our head, at least for the time being. That may change now that China's firing off ballistic missiles from submarines somewhere in the South Pacific. And Albo's in Fiji supposedly doing a new security deal, which will see Australians funding Fiji's security, increasing bilateral training arrangements, and I'm sure allowing us a little bit more port time should we get a boat big enough to be able to sail to Fiji without fear of sinking. Pardon me. I say that only partly in jest. You might recall a little while back, was it the Solomon Islands or Tonga? There was Vanuatu. There was an earthquake. Australia sent its biggest ship, one of the Anzac class, beautiful big boat, landing craft, got helicopters, all that needed. Broke down, tied up at the port, and had to be towed back to Australia at a very large cost. Very embarrassing. And from what I heard, had to have the engine torn out of it completely, meant digging a big hole in the side of it, pulling out the big engine, putting new ones in. Only just recently got it back going again. So anyway, that might be the ship that goes to visit Fiji. There is, I guess, if we're talking about Albo being secreted away, being hidden, being taken, being abducted, being arrested, dare I say. Well, if he's in Fiji, he's only a very short flight from Guam. So fingers crossed, that's where his return flight heads to. It doesn't come south. It goes just a little further north and a little further east. And thank you very much. In Guam, I reckon it'd be under an hour's flight. Could be there very quickly. And we do know that Guam is filling up with all sorts of people and supposed tribunals. So I don't know. I haven't spoken to anybody who's actually been to Guam recently. And the people that I know that go to Guam wouldn't tell me anything about it anyway, because they're not allowed to. So just the kind of shit things that happen. Speaking of shit things that happen, did you hear about this poor little 4-year-old girl who, 4-year-old boy rather, who was found dead over the weekend? His mother has been arrested and charged with murder. Now, at the time he was found with arm injuries, severe arm injuries. And those were variously described as, well, severe to extremely severe to no real description about what the injury was, but there was a twisting that was mentioned about being twisted at one stage. Well, now, sadly, horrifically, it appears that there is a cannibalism charge being leveled against the mother as well. And that might appear to be what the damage to the arm of the 4-year-old is all about. I've got to be honest, folks, the lady who did this to her own child wasn't born and bred, on Aussie rules football and meat pies and Holden cars. And this sort of crime, while absolutely horrific and involves another innocent child, is part and parcel of what you get when you import people who have yet to make the step to this level of civilization. I'm not saying that we are terribly civilized, but we do have a modicum of civilization about us. I never felt the urge, for instance, as a young man working in Shepparton in Victoria, to walk around the streets carrying a knife like that. I mean, that is a carving knife of fairly significant stature. That's a knife that will go through one side of your neck and come out the other. If pushed hard enough, it could probably go through your chest and out your back, if pushed hard enough. That's a teenager walking around the streets of Shepparton the other day. Now, yes, those teenagers were stopped. There were 3 of them. You can see the other one in there. I don't know if you're noticing. The photo to the right, the guy on the extreme right is wearing a balaclava. Brave individuals, these things. But they would argue, well, if you're going to do something nefarious, you don't want to be identified. So wear a balaclava. Now, how people in this day and age can get away with wearing a balaclava, walking around the streets, doesn't really surprise me, because there's plenty of women walking around dressed up as letterboxes. So why can't men do it? And these ones appear to have done it. Anyway, they got to a railway station at Shepparton where police intercepted them. Now, the railway doesn't go too far north. I mean, it might go to Echuca. More likely they were going south to Seymour or Seymour or Melbourne, and going for a nice day out with their knife, taking it for a day out. What did police do? Well, they didn't arrest these kids. They just took the knife off them and let them go. Yeah, what? I don't know what the rules of engagement are for the Victorian Police Force, but engage they seem to not do at all. Outside of, oh, you've got a knife. All right, we'll take that off you. You're a very naughty boy. I guess it's also a sign that the police have given up trying to do anything with these kids because the courts only let them back on the streets. And there is evidence of that every day playing out in Victoria's children's courts, where children are committing significant, I would argue, adult-style crimes and are being given bail automatically. Get them out. Don't leave them in the system. Now, I don't know if that's because the system is so full up. I suspect it probably is. Or if it's somebody's just having a good Samaritan moment in the policy department and saying, oh, no, look, we'll let them all back out. The unfortunate part with them being given that opportunity to change their ways on bail and to demonstrate that they're not going to be a danger to our society is simply by, making sure there are consequences for these little shits if they do commit another crime while on bail. And that has been the case with a number of these individuals, both in Victoria and I believe in Sydney recently, where they've picked up a couple of boys who are already on bail for serious violent offences, and they've been picked up for another serious violent offence, this time a rape, I'm led to believe. And the same happens in Queensland every other day as well. I'm sure it happens in South Australia. I'm sure it happens in Western Australia. What they're doing in Western Australia about it, and I'm bloody sure will be rolled out into the Northern Territory and other places very soon, is this facial recognition software that they have set up at various public venues, shopping centres, football games, all that kind of thing. Now, they are arresting very dangerous criminals with warrants out. And they're arresting people who've got warrants out who aren't terribly dangerous either. And I dare say they're processing them with some degree of professionalism and some degree of speed, because the faster you process them, the sooner they are likely to pay the fine and send some money back into the coffers. I can't say that the arguments against facial recognition software are bad. I don't think it should be involved in many, many places. However, I think there are places where facial recognition software probably could be used to great advantage. Not open-air public places. I don't agree with that. But in certain businesses, for instance, not that people rob banks anymore, but maybe that, casinos, when you're looking for banned people or people who are on the no gamble lists and try and sneak their way in. I know that they already have pretty extensive software in that regard for people who self-report, self-ban. But if you aren't a self-banner, there are other ways you might be able to sneak into a casino if you felt that urge. Of course, there are other ways you can go and gamble too. You don't have to go into a casino to do it. So, yeah, and there seems to be more excuses being laid out for us all as well. Well, when I say for us all, I'd be wrong. There are only acceptable excuses for really bad behaviour if you're an Indigenous person. Now, an Aboriginal woman has been spared jail after an attack on Lydia Thorpe. Now, you might remember that attack on Lydia was a little while ago. Now, apparently this lady has suffered intergenerational trauma. And so she can be excused for attacking, I won't say it, she can be excused for attacking a senator, a sitting senator, regardless of how you feel about that senator and what she says, does, or, grandstands about. That is a very serious offence. If I or you were to do that, I'm not sure that any intergenerational trauma that we've suffered over our intergenerations would be able to be used as a defence. However, if you can come up with a very plausible defence for that, you can now thank this judge for creating a precedent to be able to use it. Intergenerational trauma. Oh my, oh my, oh my. All right, speaking of intergenerational trauma, we've been going through it now for generations, it seems. When you think about it, how different is life today compared to when we were kids? And you'd say, oh, well, of course it is, Carl. But think about the things that have changed and now look back at some of those changes that we were aware that were being made at the time and we didn't bother taking much interest in. And for me, there was plenty of those. The Republican referendum was one that stands to mind. There was also another one, a referendum about local government back in the 90s that I wish I'd have paid a great deal more attention to. If wishes were fishes, we'd all cast nets in the sea. But I'm only bringing it up now because I've had the opportunity to speak with some young people who are living this in real time like we are, and they seem to be wanting to wake up. They seem to be wanting to engage and learn, and they're asking questions of the older people around them about when we first became aware of changes. And one of those very big, significant conversations happened recently, and I was surprised at just how long we've been preaching something to do with climate. I'm old enough to remember when the world was going cold again. It was global cooling. The Earth was cooling down. We could go into another ice age. And then the figures came out that said the world was warmer now than it had been in previous decades, and no signs of real problems. So then it became global warming was the issue. But then another set of figures came out, and we're talking there might be 10 years in between these sets of figures. Another set of figures come out. Oh, well, global warming. It's not really warming. It's sort of staying static, but there's change to it. It goes up a little bit, it comes down. So it's changing. And that's where climate change came into being. We don't talk about global warming or global cooling or ice ages anymore. Now it's climate change. But the climate has always changed. El Nino and the other thing have always been around. Australia has always suffered from these events. They're cyclical. Now, could they be more cyclical today than they have been in the past? Yes. I believe they're engineering these events in great part. And somebody, thank you, Mick, who sent me photos from Harvey Bay the other day. In Brisbane, the fog was very low and late, but in Harvey Bay, where it doesn't usually get too foggy, it was rather foggy, and the dimming seemed to have taken place overnight around the sunrise because it was a very, very, very dim sunrise and a very dim day all up. So I've got another video. I won't get it out now because my computer is locked up, but I've got another video of a jet passing another jet, and it's spraying something above the clouds. So we would never know what's being sprayed, but it certainly is spraying something. It is not a contrail that is coming off the wings or out of the engine exhausts. And this is plainly evident in this video. I will show that one to you tomorrow night as we... oh, is it going to let me? I don't think it's going to let me. I will be back in just a moment. Wait one. Okay, let's see if I'm back and working. Oh, it appears so. I can do a tiny little bit of scrolling. That's what we like. All right, I've given you enough time to prepare yourself. If you don't want to learn about this French filth, then stick your fingers in your ears and start singing la 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 about now.
This is John Lockland. I'm the director of FVD International. I'm speaking to you from the Palais de Tokyo in Paris. Behind me you can see an exhibition space. I'm not allowed to film in there. I started to film and the guards told me I had to stop. The reason is that there's a painting in there which shows two children with their hands tied behind their backs being forced to perform oral sex on a grown man. It's an example of the banalization of paedophilia. The French judicial authorities have recently said that this painting should stay, even though an appeal was made against the museum by an organization defending the rights of children. In the name of free expression, therefore, something is now hanging in the public space in Paris, which is designed to banalize the worst forms of sadistic paedophile pornography. FVD demands that this stop, both in the Netherlands, both in France, and indeed all across the world.
Just makes me sick. People always say to me, oh, geez, you're hard on the French, Carl. You're hard on the French. Well, they make it so easy, don't they? I will fight for free speech until I die. But I believe there has to be certain lines in the sand. And that sort of public expression of filth is one of those lines in the sand. I have zero tolerance for pedophiles, and the artist that would paint something like that, I think has serious, serious, serious problems and should be looked at both from a mental health perspective, but also potentially from a criminal perspective. And I was going to say it'd be interesting to see what other sort of works they've done, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. There would need to be pain involved, and I'm feeling enough of it now. I'd need to share that with him or her, whoever created it. Sick fucks. At any rate, one of the reasons I won't be visiting France or its museums anytime soon. I have no interest in supporting anything like that filth. And we don't have to go to France. Victoria, Melbourne, has been known to throw up quite a few of those sorts of things. I know that there was a photographer a few years ago who put up a photo of a naked 11 or 12-year-old girl in the exhibition that he was doing, and then tried to justify it. I forget how. It was sickening. Thankfully, I think it got closed down. But I'm sure that particular painting is probably hanging in some pedophile's fucking lounge room right now. Filth they are. Don't ever let me catch you. Don't ever let me catch you. 3 events scheduled before August. If you've got your fingers in the Q pie and you are praying madly for some more opium, let me give you this. Number 1, a coordinated banking stress test across 9 countries will happen simultaneously. It won't be a drill. It'll be a live extraction of liquidity from retail accounts lasting 48 to 72 hours. Now, can I paraphrase live extraction of liquidity from retail accounts, meaning people are going to run to the bank and take all their money out, or they're going to try to, for 48 to 72 hours. They will call this, your inability to get that money, a technical upgrade. Your card will decline. Your app will show $0 temporarily. They need the panic. The panic justifies the solution that they've already built. The second thing to look out for before August is a communications disruption, not a blackout, but a filtering event. Certain channels, certain keywords, certain voices will become unreachable for 5 to 7 days. Not deleted, but shadow banned at the infrastructure level. ISPs have already received the compliance framework. It was sent as a national security directive, not a law. No vote, no debate. I don't know. Vince hasn't advised me of any details that we've been given regarding servers or access or any of that. May not affect us. Ours probably aren't in America, so it probably doesn't. But anyway, we'll get on to Vince if he's awake and figure that out. And number 3, a disclosure will happen, but not the kind they promised you. It'll be a controlled release of information designed to shock you, but not to liberate you. Enough truths to paralyze you, not enough to empower you. They want you frozen in revelation, not mobilized by it. So 3 things to be looking out for before August. Cheery way to finish the show, isn't it? Take that for what you will, folks. I give you no more dates, but I do suggest there are a great many things happening, including the arrests of a number of generals recently in the States just before July the 4th. What that means in the real world, only Donald Trump and friends will know. Hopefully, we will find more about that in the not too distant future, in the very near future. Now, you might remember Friday night, we introduced you to the Fauna Caterers. I still think that's one of the best names I've ever come up with, and I didn't come up with it. I think Watta did. So I'm not going to steal his name. Brilliant, the Fauna Caterers. Now, he cooked his kangaroo cauliflower curry, which was spectacular. We have had some suggestions roll in, including one from Black Sheep, that suggests the Fauna Caterers might want to try the Tasmanian mutton bird. Now, I'm not completely sure of the differences between the Tasmanian mutton bird and the southwestern Victorian mutton bird, but if they're anything like each other, then I can confidently predict that mutton bird would need to be cooked very slowly, probably for days, and would need more salt, more pepper, and probably a whole heap of curry just to try and make it tender. And even then, I'm not sure you'd get rid of the taste. Ugh. Yes, mutton birds. I have heard stories. My grandfather, God bless him, 96 when he died, and if only I'd known about Tartaria back in those days. He had a memory on him. Boy, did he have a memory. Would he have told me? Probably not. But yeah, my grandfather used to talk about eating mutton bird in the bad old days. Oh, God, it'd have to be bad. Well, today, all we've got to worry about are the dickheads on the roads, eh? Be safe. See you tomorrow night.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!